All right, so before we get into our Week 5 picks, I just want to share my thoughts on the Shedeur Sanders situation from this past week. In case you don't know, Shedeur Sanders was asked questions by the media as the third string quarterback because, I guess it's not his fault. They do keep asking him questions. But anyways, earlier in the week, he was asked about Joe Flacco being benched, Dillon Gabriel being escalated to the starter, and him remaining as the third string quarterback instead of going to the backup in front of Joe Flacco. He kind of answered with, feeling like he's better than the league. And I will say he did not throw his teammates under the bus or anything. He was just saying like he really believed that his skill set was better than probably a lot of people in this league. And so I didn't have a huge problem with him saying that. Yes, in an ideal world, I probably would have rather him just kind of say nothing, hey, I'm here to support Dillon and whatever I need and just be ready if the team needs me to perform. Boom, simple as that. That's kind of all you had to say, especially because even though you're third string quarterback, really you're kind of the backup because it's already been determined that Flacco can't get it done. So you're honestly like one play away from you. Anyways, Rex Ryan, amongst other, prominent media people, had a lot to say about Shedeur and his comments, basically telling him, hey, as a third string quarterback, you should probably just shut up and focus on your job. And I know it came off harsh, but people have to understand that's just kind of the Rex Ryan way. I didn't take it with any kind of connotations or anything like that. I just took it as people kind of getting tired of the whole Shedeur story. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's where I was at with it earlier in the week as well. But again, I didn't feel like the comments were too terrible. I just felt like he could have easily said some other stuff, some generic stuff, and just kept it moving. I don't know who's giving him advice because the next time he stood in front of the media has the same types of questions. And instead of being an adult or a great teammate or any of that, he decided to literally mime his answers, like silently speak without speaking. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen. I'm going to be honest with you. Even stupider than that is the people that are trying to defend him by saying like, at first, you didn't like what he had to say, and now you mad because he's not saying nothing. And it's like, you guys are smarter than that, right? You're smart enough to understand that like miming fake conversation is not saying anything. It's extremely childish. And if you don't understand that, then how about this? Think about like when you were a child, or if you have children and you're reprimanding like a child for something, or you ask the child for something and you don't like their response, and then they tell you, hey, watch your mouth, or stop talking and do what I said. And then you just start to silently mime stuff at them. Tell me how that one's going to go over. Is it going to be the same thing as you just not saying nothing and going to do what you're supposed to do? No, it's not. We all understand that, right? And so it led me to the point that I am comfortable right now saying that I'm done with Shedeur Sanders. I no longer think you are qualified for the job. And physically, you may be able to do the job, but like, I don't know that you have the mental awareness or even the situational awareness to do this job. You're not a cornerback. You're a quarterback. And like it or not, that comes with like slightly different responsibilities, slightly different like prerequisites that you just have to have. It's just different. And if you don't understand that, I don't know that you ever will. I don't think Shedeur is a bad guy. I think he's probably a great fucking kid. But if I needed a quarterback to step in and, take my franchise to the next level, I've seen enough of Shedeur without watching him play football to know that's probably not the dude I'm going to roll with. Now, I don't know that Dillon Gabriel is going to be the dude I'm going to roll with either, but like at least Dillon Gabriel does know to a certain extent to just kind of keep your mouth shut, because you're new here, and that's just kind of how that stuff works. Shedeur seems to not really get it, and that does concern me. But sometimes I do like a little bit of like I'm a fan of poetic justice a little bit, because it came out a few weeks ago that the Ravens were actually going to draft Shedeur Sanders and was informed not to because he was not interested in being Lamar Jackson's backup. Well, had you not done that, had you maybe took a slightly different approach and maybe even a less selfish approach and say, yeah, you know what? I would be excited for any opportunity to go show what I would do. You'd be playing football tomorrow. So just want to throw that out there. A little bit of poetic justice. I'm going to leave the Shedeur stuff alone just because I think even myself, I feel a little way that like maybe I talked about this guy too much for, what it is. And again, I hope this doesn't come off like I'm a Shedeur hater, because I'm definitely not. I'm not a primetime hater. I'm not any of that. It's getting to the point with me. I know what I see, and I just don't think he has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. And unfortunately, he's talking himself out of ever being a viable backup quarterback. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm going to leave it alone, though, because like I said, I promised I wasn't going to go too much into Shedeur. Quick recap from last week. We had a good week last week. I gave early picks for that early game. Again, I know a lot of people probably didn't have the chance to get that in. I took Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 rushing yards, and he smashed through that for us. That was the one I was the most nervous about. I'm not going to lie to you. Also had Justin Jefferson receiving yards. He cashed for us as well. DK Metcalf did as well on pretty much one big chunk play. Definitely appreciate that. Also, I believe we had Cam Ward rushing yards, which was good to go. Just a solid week all last week. I didn't get the official count for what it was, but it was definitely a winning day. I'm going to try to replicate that today. I think I got 4 picks for you guys today. I'm kind of leaning on a 5th one, and only because like the data doesn't really support it, but I just kind of feel like maybe it's good to go. So I will give you the 4 that I feel the most solid about. I'll still give you the 5th one if you're interested in that. But yeah, let's have another winning week of football. Week 5. Look, we're moving quick through these NFL weeks. The NBA is kind of back. I did watch a preseason game. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that. But I'm excited for the NBA to come back around. Baseball playoffs are in full effect. I did win some tickets this week on that. I don't really share too much baseball on here just because, I don't care. So yeah, let's move into the week 5 picks. Let me get my screen pulled up here. So the play that I'm most confident about coming into week 5 is Darius Slayton over 40.5 rushing yards. I'll tell you why. With the unfortunate injury to Malik Neighbors, it is a season-ending injury. At this point, it's Scatterboo and it's Darius Slayton. They're still going to have to throw the football. I do know that like Jackson Dart isn't necessarily a prolific thrower of the football, but like you cannot just be one-dimensional. I do think that Darius Slayton is going to move into that role of at least giving them the we got to stretch this defense somehow. So, like, I think that's going to be a favorable matchup there. They are going against the Saints, and the Saints have literally been historically bad on defense, allowing the second most passing touchdowns in the league, and they are the 19th friendliest to fantasy wide receivers. So, Darius Slayton does have some big playability. He averages about 15 yards per reception. I do know some of that's going to change with the, adjusted lineups and things like that, but I think it's only going to go our way. So I'm taking, Darius Slayton over 40.5 receiving yards tomorrow. Moving on, I've got Rachaad White over 48.5 rushing yards. I think so with Bucky Irving being officially out, I do think that White will get the bulk of the carries. Now, the thing that makes me nervous about this play is I think that Baker's probably going to have one of those Baker days where we just might not really need the running game like that. But I do like having Rachaad White over 48.5 rushing yards. He's averaging 4.7 yards a carry this season. My guess is I wouldn't be shocked if I'm going to take him at 48.5, but I'm also probably going to ladder him up to like 70 just because I think the extended, workload will go a long way. Now, I will say this, Seattle's defense is pretty good at stopping the run. But I just think that 48.5 is way too low. So that's why I feel good about that there. And then I'm going, last week I was so happy to see Darren Waller playing football again. He's been one of my favorite wide receivers for a very long time. Even when he was going through the things he was going through, it was good to see him back out on the football field, seemingly happy, playing the game that he loves. And he made me some money on was that Monday night? There was 2 games Monday, maybe Monday. He made me some money. I was super excited about it. So I'm going to go to the well again. Darren Waller over 29.5 receiving yards feels like an excellent play. Tua seems like he had something clicking there. I know with Tyreek being out, it does kind of change. It changes their playbook a little bit, but I think it actually opens up for Darren Waller. No time is good to have an injury like they had with Tyreek Hill, but the emergence of Darren Waller in the same game, that his strength is those little situations as well. When you need 8 to 10, 12, 15 yards, he can pick that up, especially on third down. He was excellent. So yeah, we're going to go back with Darren Waller over 29.5 receiving yards. It's the perfect matchup, really. The game has 2 of the worst defenses against tight ends. So this is going to be fun. Also, maybe peek over at the Panthers tight end a little bit, because there's probably going to be some money to be made there. Last pick, second to last pick, just because I'm going to give you the last one. And I don't want it to be an official pick just because I'll tell you why. But this pick, yes, it's Ja'Marr Chase over 62.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to have a bounce back game. I do think that he is having the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, have interpersonnel problems right now. But I'm gonna hope that him and Browning was able to work that out. He was visibly frustrated. You don't leave a wide receiver the caliber of Ja'Marr Chase just that upset week after week. Even if we're already losing games, right? So if we're going to go down, I am going to go down making sure that I do not lose my wide receiver, my guy, my second most important guy past the one that's injured. That's Joe Burrow, obviously. But you just can't afford to lose him this early in the season. You can't afford to lose him at all. I know they're going up against a pretty tough defense. I just think they're going to force feed the ball to Ja'Marr Chase, and I believe in his abilities to just get open at times. Kind of the same way as Amon does. They're just going to find ways to get open. That's what the top tier wide receivers do. You can plan for them. You can scheme against them. I think this is the week it's going to be hey, we're looking Ja'Marr first. Get him in the routes that he feels comfortable running. Over 62.5 receiving yards. I will do a ladder play with him as well, all the way up to 100 yards receiving, just because I think this could be a bounce back. And Cincinnati really, really needs. They could really use the win, but a strong showing is at least necessary here. Some fight, just so you don't completely lose this team in week 5 of the season, just because, trust me, I know it's looking bad in Cincinnati. And that's what happens, though, when you lose a quarterback like Joe Burrow. But you try to mitigate the losses that you have and not let it just snowball into something ridiculous. The last play I have is, I got to pull it up here. I know the play. I just don't know. I don't remember the yards I got him at. Essentially, it's Josh Downs. And as soon as I can get it pulled up on the screen. Yeah. So Josh Downs over 35.5 receiving yards. The Raiders are at the Colts. The Raiders are terrible on I think Daniel Jones is probably going to have a wonderful day tomorrow. They are going to eat, and I think they're going to eat early. I think Josh Downs over 35.5 receiving yards is honestly, I said it was my risky play just because it's more of a heart than a head play. But the more I talk myself through this. They don't really know what they're going to do with AD Mitchell. And the way it's looking, I live in Indy here locally, and like all the local talk is he may not get no burn tomorrow. So like the mistakes that he made, I don't think you give up on AD Mitchell. If they don't play him tomorrow, I don't think that would be the route I would go with somebody as talented as AD Mitchell. I don't think I would play with his psyche like that. I know he made stupid mistakes. I think he understands that. Maybe a week of 1 to 2 plays, probably minimal targets. Hopefully that gets into him, but I do think that Shane Steichen tries to show him some kind of lesson tomorrow. Josh Downs has the athletic ability to catch a short route and burn through these 35.5 yards really, really quickly. He's just been kind of inconsistent, which is strange to me because last year, watching the Colts as closely as I do, he was one of my, you can count on him, right? So this year with Daniel Jones, it hasn't really seemed to sync between the two of them. But with Alec Pierce gone and AD Mitchell kind of, we don't really know what's going on. I think Josh Downs' usage is going to go up a little bit tomorrow. 35.5 receiving yards seems low, so I went ahead and put some money on that. Again, you can do that if you like. I don't have any graphs or charts to show you that this is a great play. Just from watching this team, this is how I think it's going to go out there tomorrow. Let's do a quick rundown here. All the plays for you, and then I'll get out of here and, stop wasting you guys' time. All right. So for week 5, these are the plays. Darius Slayton over 40.5 receiving yards. We're going Rachaad White over 48.5 rushing yards. Darren Waller over 29.5 receiving yards. Jamar Chase over 62.5 receiving yards. Also laddering him all the way up to 100 yards. Bounce back. Cincinnati, you fucking need this, bro. Y'all need this. And just for fun, Josh Downs over 35.5 receiving yards. He could also have a really, really big day. And I might throw some stupid money on him too because I think Daniel Jones is going to eat tomorrow. Also, watch out for Baker Mayfield passing yards, Daniel Jones rushing yards. Yeah, those are some things I really feel good about, but it just didn't. The data didn't 100% make sense, but wouldn't be shocked to see it. This is Run 'em Daily. Let's eat, man. Let's eat on week 5. We did great in week 4. I will see you guys maybe on Monday, maybe Sunday night if we can get a good game. I'll give a reaction or something like that. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you may be listening or watching on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe. I really do appreciate that. I'm still trying to grow the YouTube platform. I'm new there though, so I don't even know if we're doing this right or good over there. But like I said, any support is appreciated this way. If you're on the traditional podcast platforms and you haven't done so, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, send this to a friend, let these tech companies know this is the type of podcast that you like to consume when it's week 5 of the NFL. We're getting into the greatest time of the sports year. We got NFL football. We got playoff baseball. We got the beginnings of basketball. It's a great time to be alive. Peace.